Okay, everybody, let's go ahead and get started with today's presentation. My name is Dana Shibley with the company Verifyle, and today we will be talking about Verifyle Gold or NATP members. I want to give you all a heads up that I do have the system on global mute so that we won't be distracted by any background noise. Unfortunately, that means you won't be able to ask questions of me in real time. However, feel free to type any questions that you have into the questions area of the webinar interface. And towards the end of today's presentation, I'll do my best to get to as many of those questions as I can. If I don't get to your particular question for some reason, rest assured that somebody from Verifyle will definitely be following up with you and answering your questions. Okay, all of us here at Verifyle are very pleased about the now pretty long-standing partnership we've had in place with NATP. And as a result of this partnership, all of you NATP members get access to a premium version of Verifyle, which is Verifyle Gold at the price of $12 per month with no long-term commitment to you. And that's actually a price that's close to a 60% discount off the regular $29 per month. So it's a fantastic deal you're getting as a result of being a member of NATP. Of course, there's no charge to anyone that you share information with using your Verifyle Gold system, and you get access to all the capabilities inside of Verifyle Gold, including the ability to brand it as you would like, unlimited electronic signatures compliant with the IRS, and also the public upload page. Okay. Quick caveat here. I am not a tax expert, but today I'm going to be showing you some general sharing examples to really stress the key concepts for use behind Verifyle. Unlike other presentations that you may have watched where you feel like you have to furiously jot down details about how to use a system, you don't need to do that with Verifyle. If you get 2 or 3 key concepts in your mind with respect to how to use Verifyle, everything will flow very naturally for you from there. It's quite simple to use for you and your clients as well. There are already a number of professional services providers using Verifyle for secure sharing purposes across the globe. There are many people who are also using Verifyle for secure storage purposes. A number of professionals use Verifyle primarily for securely sharing sensitive information with their colleagues and so forth, while others use Verifyle exclusively for sharing sensitive information back and forth with their clients. Others still use it to share sensitive personal or family information on a selective basis. Okay, some quick background information about Verifyle. We're based in Silicon Valley, and we're led by Jack Smith, who is the individual who invented and co-founded the company Hotmail, which was many people's first experience with both email and the internet, and ultimately grew to about 500 million users. He also had lead roles with 2 successful digital security companies, Ironport and Proximex. Verifyle is all about making communication better. And we see 2 key aspects of communication. Those are security and productivity, neither of which should come at the expense of usability. The reason we place such persistent emphasis on security is that we believe the near-term future of business will continue to be characterized by those organizations and professionals who make that extra effort to protect and secure their own information and that of their constituents and continue to reap the long-term trust relationship benefits that derive from that, and those professionals who don't make that extra effort and see a gradual erosion in those trust relationships. We want to make sure that all of our users fall on the positive side of that line. So you might be asking yourself, what exactly is Verifyle? Verifyle is ultra secure messaging and document sharing and storage all on a single screen, where in that single screen for each situation that you're working on, whether that be a client engagement, project management, or any kind of sharing or storage of sensitive information, you can see exactly who has access to what information and if and when any single individual has looked at or downloaded any information. So you always have a very heightened sense of situational awareness with respect to that communication, not only from your own perspective in terms of what's happening, but in terms of what's happening on the other side of that communication as well. Think of Verifyle as your all-in-one communication power tool, specifically designed for those situations that you must be absolutely on top of, that must be well organized, and above all, private and secure. Now, in our secure single screen, we've incorporated the most powerful components of email, cloud file sharing, unlimited electronic signatures, and our patented encryption key management technology, CelluCrypt, which manages the interaction of 6 different encryption keys for each time that any single individual interacts with any single data element inside of Verifyle. So each data element inside of Verifyle has been individually encrypted, such that even if somebody were to break past our encryption, which they won't, all they'd be able to access would be that single data element, and that's it. There's no potential for someone to break into Verifyle and scoop mass amounts of data to take advantage of what we call bulk access vulnerability, as they have done with so many other systems out there in both the public and private sectors. With Verifyle, there's no real incentive for someone to try and break in the first place, because there's not that potential for a large-scale return on that hacker's efforts. So this is a major reduction in risk for anyone who uses Verifyle. In fact, we would go as far as to say that it's a complete game changer in terms of your overall information risk profile. Okay, at any time, you can send an email to support@verifyle.com if you have questions about your use of Verifyle or considering using Verifyle. Okay. Something I want to point out to you up front here, and I'll talk about in more detail in just a bit, is that in order to access your discounted Verifyle Gold system, you can simply go to verifyle.com/NATP at any time in order to sign up. Okay, so moving ahead here. I'm now going to actually show you the demonstration of Verifyle. And please bear in mind as we go through this demonstration that I'll be acting as Dana Shibley, the tax professional. And even though Verifyle is backed by all this encryption technology, by all this security, as users, we don't need to create any encryption keys, memorize any encryption keys, manage or share any encryption keys at all. That's all automatically managed behind the scenes by Verifyle. Okay, you should all be able to see the sign-in screen for Verifyle now. You can access this screen using any of the major browsers. It doesn't matter whether you're using a Mac, a PC, or a tablet computer. Okay, you're also welcome to use our handy mobile app if you would like. So I'm going to sign in using my email address and password here. I'll click next. And I have selected the option inside of Verifyle such that an authentication code is being requested of me. This is the second factor of authentication, right? And I do have the option, by the way, to also click in this box right here. If I click in this box right here, it is effectively me telling Verifyle, hey, Verifyle, if in the future there is a sign-in attempt to this account where the proper password is put in, but you can see that that attempt is coming from the device that I'm using right now and the browser that I'm using right now, there's no need to ask for that additional authentication code. Okay, so in any case, I'm going to go ahead and type my authentication code in, and you're welcome to use an authentication code that you get from an authenticator that you might put on your mobile phone that has a code that changes every 30 seconds, or you can simply have that code, that second factor of authentication code sent to you by SMS if you would like. That's up to you. All right, so I'll type in that code. And now I'm in Verifyle. The first thing that you should notice is that up towards the top center, you can see the NATP logo, and you can swap that out for any logo of your choosing by simply clicking on your name at the top right and then going into the account settings area. I'll show you how to do that in more detail in just a bit here. Okay, the second thing I want to point out to you is that there are two main areas to your Verifyle system. There is the Workspaces area, which we are in right now, and you can see that exemplified by the fact that the Workspaces tab is highlighted. Let's start out in the Contacts area. So I'm going to go over to the Contacts tab and click on it. Click. All right, and here you can see my list of contacts, any one of which I can click on at any time to open up a secure one-to-one communication between me and that particular individual in the form of a private message between me and that individual. Let's make this a little bit more realistic. Let's say that I meet a new person and want to quickly open up a secure one-to-one communication with that person. let's say that person's named Christine Carson. All I need to do is click on this plus symbol here in the Contacts tab and type in Christine's name and email address. And then I click Add. And now you can see that Christine Carson's name has been added to my contacts list. And here in the center of my screen, I can see that there's a private messages area that's opened up between me and Christine Carson, where I can type a message to her. And I can also click on this paperclip symbol right here to share a file with her if I would like. So let's say I want to share the annuity policy document with her, for example. All right. And then all I need to do is click send right here. And that information is encrypted as it is brought into Verifyle. Okay. And you can see the message I typed here. Here's the document. The document's expanded on over here where I can do a number of things to it. We'll take a look at that in just a bit here. But the main thing I want you to have in mind right now is that as I entered this information into Verifyle, Verifyle automatically sent an email alert to Christine Carson that will land in her old-fashioned email box that alerts her that I, Dana Shibley, the tax professional, right, using the secure system Verifyle, am sharing with her an annuity policy document and also a message inside of Verifyle, right? She can't actually access that information in that email alert that landed in her old-fashioned email box. And that's good. We don't want to be sending sensitive information back and forth via email because email is not secure. However, Christine can click on that link in her email alert, which brings her into Verifyle, where she can then create her own password, and she will get full access to the message and also the annuity policy document. Okay, and if she looks at that annuity policy document or downloads it, I will instantly receive an alert to that effect, letting me know that she has done so. Okay. All right, and if for some reason Christine does not want to click on links and email alerts, yes, she can simply go to verifyle.com in order to access this information. Let's see what this looks like from Christine Carson's perspective. So I'm now going to be acting as Christine Carson. Okay, I'm Christine Carson, the client or potential client, and I would have received an email alert, by the way, or if I happen to already be working inside of Verifyle, then I might first see this internal alert right here, this red number 1. So I, Christine Carson, click on the Contacts tab, and there I can see that Dana Shibley is sharing with me an annuity policy document, which I can take a look at, I can download if I would like, and I also have an ability to type in a message to Dana here. Okay, I, Christine Carson, the potential client, can type a message back to Dana. Notice this is the same interface that Dana saw on his side. So I'll type in here, thanks, Dana. Please bring my husband into our communication as well. Okay, and I can click here to share a document back with Dana if I would like to. But let's just say I want to just type that message to Dana for right now. So I, Christine Carson, click send. Okay, and then let's go back and look from Dana's perspective, the tax professional. So I, Dana, the tax professional, can see the message that Christine Carson typed back. Okay, so I can share files back and forth with Christine Carson here. I can request signatures from Christine Carson here. I can do a lot of different things here. And the reason I'm going through this with so much detail is because this is the basic function in Verifyle. And for those clients of yours who have relatively simple tax situations where maybe you're just having a handful of back and forth messages and a few documents back and forth, you would be fine working with those clients right out of the contacts area. Okay, that would be the easiest way to do it. However, if you can sense from your communications with your client or potential client, Christine Carson in this case, that you're going to need some deeper level communications, then you're going to have to think a little bit further. Okay, I'm getting some cues from Christine Carson here that I might need some deeper level communication capabilities than just the private messages area. For example, first of all, Christine has told me she wants to bring her husband into this communication, so that's another person, right? She's also told me she wants to talk with me about some estate planning issues, and she wants to pull her estate planning attorney into those discussions as well. She also happens to be a partner in a small business that she runs, and she wants to bring her business partner into some communications with me. Okay, suddenly we've got different topics going on here and different people in her world, her husband, her estate planning attorney, her business partner, and so forth. So I'm going to have to do some siloing in terms of who gets access to what, who sees access to what information in Christine Carson's world, right? It's not going to be the case that everyone's going to see everything. Okay, so these are all tip-offs to me that I should be thinking about creating a workspace. So I'm going to click on the Workspaces tab. Here I have a number of workspaces that I've already created. These tend to be situations where there are multiple people involved, perhaps multiple topics, or what we would call threads, workspace threads inside of these workspaces, and a lot of siloing of information and a lot of information going back and forth, potentially over a long period of time. All right, so I want to create such an environment for Christine Carson because it's looking like this is a situation where I'm going to be doing some deep communication. It's going to be a situation where I need to really manage those communications. So I want to create a workspace. How do I do that? I click the plus symbol here in the Workspaces tab, and I'm going to create this workspace and name it Client Christine Carson. So Client Christine Carson, there it is. Okay, new workspace, Client Christine Carson. The host is me, Dana Shibley. Why am I the host? Because I am the creator of this workspace, which means that I'm going to be the quarterback or orchestrator of this workspace, if you will. In other words, everyone else that I add into this workspace will be a guest. Okay, and I am the only buddy who has the ability to add and remove guests from this workspace, to add and remove topics or threads, right, from this workspace. Only I can do that. None of the guests that I add in here can do so. So let's click into the Client Christine Carson workspace and do some work. So I click here. Okay, now I'm in the Client Christine Carson workspace, right? And as you can see, nothing's been added here yet because I haven't put anything in, but Verifyle's prompting me to add a guest. So I click here and I'm going to first add Christine herself. So I do a search for her, there she is, and I add Christine. Christine's been added as a guest, and the Verifyle system has intelligently recognized, oh, Dana already started a one-to-one private messages communication with Christine Carson in the contact area. It would be useful for Dana to still have access to that secure one-to-one private messages communication with Christine Carson, even though he's now going to be working in the workspace environment, okay? Remember, the reason that we created this workspace in the first place was so that we could take advantage of those deeper level communication capabilities, which I can do inside of workspace threads. So watch this. I'm going to click on the plus symbol for workspace threads, and I'm going to create one workspace thread called tax planning. Okay, I'm going to create a second workspace thread called estate planning, right? I might create another workspace thread called small business, ABC small business that she runs, right? Et cetera, okay? And just for example here, I'm going to create another workspace thread and call it my reference materials, just like that. All right, so let's just go with those three workspace threads for demonstration's sake. Okay, I'm going to start out in the tax planning workspace thread, and you can see here that when I click on the tax planning workspace thread here, the tax planning workspace thread becomes front and center on the page here, right? Familiar format. Okay, no guests have access yet. No guests have access, it's private. Okay, and the reason no guests have access yet is because I haven't given anybody access. And I can do that by going to the gear symbol right here. Wherever you are in Verifyle, if you move your cursor around, you'll see a number of little gear icons pop up. Okay, I'm going to tell you a corny little jingle here, super corny, that way it'll stick in your head. And the jingle is, when things are unclear, go to the gear. So I'm going to click on the gear symbol right here, like that. And I'm going to click on Manage Permissions. That's one of my options. And Manage Permissions lets me decide who's going to get access to the information in the tax planning workspace thread here. So I'll click on Manage Permissions, and I'm going to give Christine Carson access just like that. And I also want to add somebody else. I want to add her husband in here because remember, in the one-to-one private messages communication that I had with Christine Carson, she told me to bring her husband into the communication. And I know she was speaking specifically about taxes. So I'm going to go back to the tax planning workspace thread, click on the gear icon, click on Manage Permissions, and he's not somebody that I've communicated with in the past, her husband, so I need to add him as a contact. So I'll click on the plus symbol here, and let's say his name is Sammy, house, and that's his email address, sammy@example.com. All right, so I've added him. There he is right there. Okay, and I click add. All right, and now you can see Christine Carson and Sammy will both have access to any information I put in here related to taxes. Okay, first let's add some tax documents in here. Let's see, I'm gonna add in that document right there, and what else can I add? This is where you can see that Dana's really not a tax professional. He doesn't know what he's adding. Okay, I think I picked some good ones there. Okay, and I can just drag and drop those documents in just like that. Okay, I'll type a message for them. All right, and I click send. All right, that information is encrypted as it's pulled into Verifyle, and now Christine, Sammy, and I can all communicate, adding documents and messages in here that all three of us will be able to see, right? And again, just to drive the point home, notice that when I move my cursor around, there are gear icons all over the place. Okay, and now I'm going to go to the estate planning workspace thread like that. Now that workspace thread is front and center. And what am I going to do? I'm going to decide who gets access. So I do what? When things are unclear, I go to the gear. I click on the gear symbol, click manage permissions. I'm going to give access to Christine Carson and Sammy's spouse, just like that. And remember, Christine Carson asked me to bring her estate planning attorney in here as well. So no problem. I go to the gear, click on manage permissions, and I'm going to do a search. I'm going to bring in her lawyer, and let's say, for example, her lawyer is Lisa Lawyer. Okay, so I bring Lisa Lawyer in, and now I can see that Christine, Sammy, and Lisa Lawyer will all have access to the estate planning information in here. So I might type a message like, welcome, Lisa, because I've never spoken with her before, and then I type a message like, let's work on estate planning or something like to that effect, right? All right, I'll pull in a few documents for example's sake here. Let's pull in some estate planning documents. How about asset allocation and business succession map and last will and testament document and life insurance policy, living trust document too. Let's put those all in. Okay, I pull those all in and I go ahead and click send. Okay, and you can see that I've shared those 5 documents with Christine, Sammy, and Lisa Lawyer, the estate planning attorney. And then finally, for the other workspace thread, my reference materials, you can see it's private, no guests have access yet. And you know what? I don't want anybody else to have access. This is the place where I want to put things just for my own eyes, right? When I'm thinking about client Christine Carson. So let me just add a couple of documents in here. Let's say I pull in here a cash flow report and checkup results, contract X42. All right, some random stuff. Okay, and then I'm going to click send. But when I click send here, I'm not actually sharing it with anybody because there are no guests who have been designated as recipients of this information. When I click send, I'm simply sending it into Verifyle, where those documents now reside as secure encrypted storage items for me to reference anytime when I'm inside the workspace for client Christine Carson and thinking about her estate planning or tax planning or other issues, right? So these are for my eyes alone. Very handy to have that storage area here. So you can see that what I've ultimately built out here is a number of workspace threads where different people for each of the workspace threads have access to different documents and different messages, all orchestrated by me. So in effect, each of these workspace threads serves as a dynamic subfolder within the larger organizational framework of the workspace, okay? And these are all things that I manage to make sure that each individual associated with the client Christine Carson situation, right, gets a customized view of things that they need to see as determined by me, of course, in communication with client Christine Carson herself. And at any time, I can also click on individuals' names to have a one-to-one communication with them. Let's see what this looks like from Christine Carson's perspective. So I'm in as Christine Carson, the client, and I can see, oh, there's a new workspace thing here. It's called Client Christine Carson. That's me. So I, Christine Carson, click here, and I can see, oh, Dana's hosting this workspace, and it's got 2 workspace threads in it. Make note of the fact that there are only 2 workspace threads here. You know that Dana actually created 3 workspace threads, but he chose not to share the My Reference Materials workspace thread with Christine. Okay. In fact, Dana could have actually created a handful more workspace threads that he's using specifically to communicate with his internal colleagues about this big new client, Christine Carson, just to iron out some issues, get their opinion, et cetera, et cetera. He might even be reaching out to external colleagues outside of his company to have communication related to the Christine Carson situation. Okay. So my point there is Dana has decided that these are the only 2 workspace threads that Christine Carson should see. But if Dana's really on the ball, he has a huge opportunity here in that if Dana's on the ball and he knows that Christine, for example, has out-of-state assets, there might be a workspace thread called out-of-state. If he knows that Christine Carson has a number of philanthropic activities she's involved in, there might be a workspace thread called philanthropy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Giving an opportunity for Dana to put forth to Christine a portfolio view of her tax, her financial situation, such that whenever Christine signs in, she sees a number of workspace threads all laid out here, well organized with the appropriate comments and documents in each of those workspace threads and the appropriate people having access, all orchestrated by Dana, the tax professional, of course, with close consultation with Christine Carson. So some of you are probably thinking, hey, I have some clients who would really appreciate that. And certainly you probably also have clients who could care less about that, right? If someone has a very simple situation, they're much less likely to want that or appreciate that. But certainly some of your biggest clients, I bet, would really benefit from that, as opposed to just seeing a flow of information that they might need to read or sign or do something with. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so as Christine Carson, I can go in here, I can click on documents over here to look at them, I click on them over here, so I'm basically clearing the alerts. I'll go into the estate planning workspace thread where I can do similarly. Okay, let's say that I want to take a look at the life insurance policy. So I click on the life insurance policy and I decide just to take a quick look at it. Okay, I took a quick look. All right, and in fact, I want to look at it in more detail later today. So I'm actually going to download it. Okay, so I decided to download that life insurance policy. Okay, for me to take a look at later. Okay, so both that view of the document that I took and also me downloading that document, both of those actions created email alerts that were sent to Dana, and those access instances were also logged for Dana to refer to at any time. Okay, and we'll see the importance of that in just a few minutes here. Okay, now, the other thing that I want to point out here is, let's just say, for example, some time has passed and there are dozens and dozens of documents in here and hundreds of timed and date stamped messages in here. And I, the client Christine Carson, come to think that, you know what, Lisa Lawyer's not actually adding that much value. Everything she types in here is kind of obvious and she's awfully expensive. I don't want her to be involved in my estate planning anymore. Can I remove her? Can I, Christine Carson, remove her? No, I cannot, because I'm a guest in this workspace thread. Only Dana Shibley, the host, can remove Lisa Lawyer. So I might type a message to Dana, hey, Dana, get rid of Lisa Lawyer from my estate planning workspace thread, but I probably wouldn't want to type it here because Lisa would see it, right? But I, Christine, can click here to simply type a message that only Dana will see. Please get rid of Lisa, the attorney. Okay, something like that. All right, let's go back. And now look again from Dana's perspective. I'm back as Dana, the tax professional. I see that Christine Carson wants me to get rid of Lisa, the attorney. And I know that Lisa is in the estate planning workspace thread. So I go to the estate planning workspace thread where I see Lisa Lawyer. And can I get rid of her? I sure can. I'm the host of this workspace. So I'll click on the gear icon for estate planning, click on manage permissions, and remove Lisa Lawyer's access just like that. She can no longer access this information. Okay, but any messages or documents she has added in here will remain, so that when Christine Carson asks me to add her new estate planning attorney, I'll go ahead and do that. I click on the gear symbol, click Manage Permissions, and I add Christine Carson's new estate planning attorney. Let's say that's Lenny Lawyers. Now you can see that Lenny Lawyers has access to the hundreds of time and date stamp messages and dozens of documents in here. Lenny Lawyers will see all the comments that Lisa Lawyer, the prior lawyer, had put in here as well. So this is a huge benefit of Verifyle in that basically in about 10 seconds, maybe 20 seconds, I can effectively transfer the entire history chronology of estate planning information related to Christine Carson from one professional to another professional. Similarly, I could, inside my company, let's say I have an employee leave, I can transfer that information from that employee who's leaving to the new employee that I bring into my company. Okay, so in this situation, I could, for example, type a message to Lenny Lawyers saying, hey, Lenny, go ahead and review all these documents and all these messages, and let's talk later this week, and you brief us on what you think some of the key points here are for us to think about with regard to this. Okay, imagine trying to do that using email and email attachments. Not happening, right? Almost impossible. All right, the other thing I want to point out is that remember that the life insurance policy was looked at, and I want to know as a tax professional who's looked at that life insurance policy because it has some very interesting tax implications. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the gear symbol, right? I go to the gear symbol for the life insurance policy. I click on it and I want to look at the access history. Who's looked at it? Click here and I can see, oh, Sammy's spouse hasn't looked at it. Lenny Lawyers hasn't looked at it yet. That's okay. I just gave him access. Christine's accessed this document 2 times. Okay, and I click here and I can see the exact dates and times that Christine has looked at this document. You're seeing this in Pacific time, of course, because I'm on the West Coast and you're just looking at my screen. But if Christine had looked at this document 15 times over the last month or 2 or whatever, I would see every single one of those access instances listed here. And if I see that my client is looking at a document many, many, many times, that should tip me off that there's an opportunity for me to potentially add some value and help my client understand the implications of that document with respect to her taxes or whatever in this particular situation, right? Similarly, if I can see that she just looked at this document 20 minutes ago and I have a call scheduled with her in a half hour, what's she likely going to ask me about on that call, right? It's giving me a tip off. It's putting me on my toes. It's giving me a higher level sense of awareness in terms of what's going on in my client's mind, allowing me to better serve her, all right? Similarly, in any private message thread, okay, or in any workspace thread, at any time you can click on somebody's name to see when that person was last inside of that thread, that communication area, regardless of whether or not they did anything. So I can see Lenny Lawyers and Sammy's spouse haven't even looked in the estate planning workspace thread yet, but Christine Carson was in here on January 14th at 9:33 a.m. Again, all these things helping raise my situational awareness with respect to what's going on in the communication between me and my client. Okay, let's go ahead and move on here. I do want to go into tax planning and do one signature process because I know that's a big part of what all of you do. So in the tax planning workspace thread, I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to add a document. Let's say that I just go ahead and add an engagement letter. Okay, now, as all of you know, if I simply click send right now, I'd simply be sharing this engagement letter with Christine Carson and Sammy's spouse, but I want them to sign it. So I'm first going to click right here in the request signing box. Then I click send. Okay, I need to indicate to Verifyle who I want to sign this document. I want both of them to sign it. And in fact, I actually want Christine to sign it first. Okay, so I click next. And for Christine, the first signer, yes, I want her to agree to these terms below. I want her to agree to do business electronically. And by the way, you can change the statement of terms to be anything you want it to be that you want the signer to agree to. Okay, and yes, I want Christine to input a one-time signature code. So I'm going to type in here the mobile phone number at which I know Christine can receive the one-time signature code. All right, so I add that. And then for the second signer, Sammy's spouse, yes, I also want him to agree to the terms below, and I'm going to add in what I know to be his mobile phone number as well. And then I click next. Okay. And then Verifyle is prompting me, would I like to add any of my own signatures or make any changes to this document, maybe annotate it or something like that before I request a signature from my client? Now, I'm going to guess that you guys handle this in different ways. Some of you probably want to pre-sign documents before you have someone else sign them, and some of you maybe wait for your client to sign the document before you sign it. But let's just say I want to add my own signature up front before getting it from my client. So I can click yes here. Okay. And I'm brought into this area here where I can add a signature. So I'm going to click here to add my own signature. So I've added my signature by simply typing it in, but you now have the options in Verifyle where you can click here to draw your own signature. You can click here to upload your own signature as well. I'm going to go with what I have here. Okay. And now I'm just going to drag and drop my signature. Let's say, for example, let's just say I'm going to put my signature right here. Okay. And I could use this add annotation to add other information to this document as well before I get it signed. But let's go with what I put in right here. I just put my signature right there. And now for Christine Carson, the signer, I can add any spaces where I want her to add information. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw a rectangle here where I want her to sign. So within this rectangle I've drawn here, I can click and I can decide whether I want it to be initials there or a date, or whether I even want it to be a custom field. I'm just going to say I want her signature there, and let's say that I decide I want the date to go here. Okay, so then I click next signer, and then for Sammy's spouse, I'm going to do similarly. Let's say that I want Sammy's spouse to sign there, and then let's say, for example, I just want Sammy's initials to go here. All right, you get the general idea, right? I can put these boxes anywhere I want and request any type of content that I want. Okay, so by the way, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but you do have the ability to create a template such that, for example, this is an engagement letter. I might call this engagement letter for couples. If it was just for a single person, I might call the engagement letter for single person and save it so that all those spaces are saved on this document, and the type of information that I want is also saved within the template, so I don't have to go in and redraw these boxes over and over again on the same document. Okay. All right, let's move forward here. I'm going to click Finish Request. Okay, signature request is ready to submit, so I'm going to click Submit Request. And now I can see that Christine has been notified to sign. After she signs, Sammy will be notified to sign. Now I'm back in as Christine Carson, the client. Okay, and I would have received an email alert. Christine Carson, would have received an email alert, and also there's an alert inside of Verifyle here for me. And if I click here to sign, I can see that the person requesting my signature wants me to agree to do business electronically. I'll click yes, right? If I click no, I won't be allowed to proceed. Okay, and I also see that the person requesting my signature wants me to do this in conjunction with using a one-time passcode. So I say fine, send me the signature code. Okay, and automatically from Verifyle, that signature code will now come to me, Christine Carson, the intended signer. So I'm going to go ahead and on my mobile phone, I receive that code. Okay, and I'm going to type it into Verifyle. There we go. And I click Submit. Okay, and yes, I confirm the signature, and I confirm that my signature is okay going there, and that the date's okay going there. All right, I just digitally signed, I electronically signed that document. Okay, and I can see that Verifyle telling me I've signed, and now Sammy is being notified to sign the document as well. Let's go back in and look from Dana's perspective. I'm back in as Dana, the tax professional. I can see that Christine has signed, and I would have received an email alert to this effect. And I can now click on that engagement letter. Let's say I decide to just take a look at it, and can see Christine's signature and the date of her signature right here. Okay, so I can see that that's done. And we're not going to go through the process of Sammy signing it, but of course, he's now going through the process that Christine just went through. But it's important to point out that I can click on the gear icon right here, and I can click on View Signing Info. And here I can see a full document signing audit report that has a lot of metadata associated with me requesting the signature and metadata associated with Christine Carson actually signing and agreeing to do business electronically, and also capture of her IP address per IRS requirements. And I can print this out in either a PDF soft copy or hard copy form whenever I would like. And once her husband, Sammy's spouse, signs the document, all of his data regarding his signing will be added to this audit report as well. Okay, moving ahead here, something else I want to point out to all of you is for any document, you can preview it, and you have the ability for any document to go ahead and click on this pencil icon right here. And not only can you add annotation anywhere on a document, et cetera, all right, but you also have the ability to change the order of pages in documents, okay? And you have the ability to merge multiple documents into a single document as well, all right? So this is a really nice, convenient thing to have built right into Verifyle. Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to point out to all of you is, this is a question that commonly comes up, so I'm just going to hit it on the head right here. Whether you're inside of the Workspaces area of Verifyle or you're inside the Contacts area, at any time you can go over to this little tab here on the right, and you can have those different items be sorted by first name alphabetical, by last name alphabetical, or email address. I like it to stay sorted by updated date, or what I call recency. That's how I like my information to be sorted. Okay, so make note of that. And then finally, the other thing I wanted to point out to all of you is, if you talk to people who very recently started using Verifyle, they will tell you that they started using it because they've heard good things about it. That through the demo, they saw that it was very easy to use. Some people say they love the fact that they don't have to be paying for digital signatures to be compliant with the IRS anymore. That adds up to a lot of money if you have a lot of clients. Or maybe they'll tell you that the reason they started using Verifyle was because of the incredible security that's backing it. However, if you talk to people who've been using Verifyle for a while, they will talk to you about how powerful it is to have all the key information related to key clients in one location via the Workspace. Here's a workspace for client Christine Carson that we created, where we can see all of the key people, all of the key topics, and we can see the key documents all in this very easily accessible framework here that helps wrap our heads at a concrete level around the interrelationship between the people, the topics, the documents, the messages, et cetera, et cetera. And when you help make information more tangible like this, it allows people to elevate their thinking beyond the level of do task A, task B, task C, and allow them to think more strategically about how to move the overall situation forward. Said more succinctly, great software is characterized by software that allows you to understand more while looking at less. It allows you to accomplish more while doing less. Okay, and the Workspace environment definitely does that. And it serves as a phenomenal digital cue card for those situations where you have that client, for example, you haven't talked to in 2 months, who calls you out of the blue and immediately starts talking about some arcane document that you only used one time in 20 years and some rarely referenced tax law immediately, right out of the gate. And your head's just spinning because you've talked to 300 other clients in the past 2 months, right? It sure is nice that with Verifyle, you can just click on the workspace for that client and immediately see, oh yeah, here are the key people, here are the key topics, here are some of the things we worked on, and snap your mind back to that place where you can immediately be pedaling again and understanding how you can add value right away to that communication with that client, right? Bring you back to that point where you can add value right away. So Verifyle is very handy for that as well. Okay, what I'd like to do now real quickly is show you a workspace that I've created in advance to also stress some key elements behind Verifyle that will help you perhaps grow your business, or at least think constructively about a powerful way to grow your business. Okay, so one of the workspaces I've created in advance here is that for the Rockefeller family. Let's say that this is a family that has a lot going on. All right, a lot of assets, complex tax situation, a number of people involved. There's a lot happening here. This is definitely a deep level communication situation. So I'm going to click on the Rockefeller family workspace, and let's say that my key contact here is Ricky Rockefeller. For Ricky Rockefeller, I've set up a number of workspace threads, including tax considerations, estate planning, where I'm selectively sharing information related to Ricky Rockefeller's situation with carefully selected people, right? Charitable donations, legal requirements, and cash flows are some of the other workspace threads that I've set up here for my client, Ricky Rockefeller. And as you can imagine, as we look in here, I can see documents including an asset list, a last will and testament, life insurance policy, living trust document, et cetera, the types of documents that many people in Ricky Rockefeller's world are very interested, including people in his immediate and extended family, including Rhonda Rockefeller and Susie's stepsister, as well as people in his professional network, including Larry Lenderbank, his banker, Ellen Executive, his business partner, and Albert Advisor, his financial advisor. Now, of course, I'm going to be the consummate tax professional in terms of helping Ricky Rockefeller save money, helping him with his tax planning, et cetera, et cetera. I want to be all over that situation. But above and beyond that, there's an opportunity for me to add value that he had not perhaps anticipated, in that there's an opportunity for me here to, in close conjunction with Ricky Rockefeller, serve as a professional steward of his sensitive information on a need-to-know basis with confirmation out to his network of immediate and extended family members and also business colleagues, right? Again, in close consultation with Ricky Rockefeller, I can become that professional steward of his information to make sure that the right people get access to the right information at the right time with confirmation, okay? How sticky of a position is that? That's an extremely sticky position to be in, okay? And if I present and communicate professionally out to all of these people regarding Ricky Rockefeller's situation and his sensitive information, there's a good chance that some of these people might really appreciate the work that I'm doing and decide that they want me to represent them in the future as well. So this is a great way for me to, through my professionalism, through my work, through my knowledge, through my organizational skills, show people what I can do and potentially build my base of clients as well. Okay, and some of you are probably thinking right now, Dana, come on, just talk about the software and stop talking about how we should grow our businesses. But I am like you in that I am a professional services provider. You and I, and also attorneys, people in the education field, insurance people, et cetera, we all share something in common. We don't have a tangible, physical, kickable product. It's all information, laws, and relationships. And our industries, because of that, are going to change faster and faster. So the bar for us to remain competitive in our industries is just going to continue to rise and rise and rise. And I'm trying to show you a way here that you can potentially use Verifyle to help you grow your business. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox now and let's move forward. Okay, so as you know, recapping just a tiny bit here, you can go into the contacts area anytime you want. You can click the plus symbol, add individuals, and communicate very smoothly back and forth with those people, get signatures, et cetera, et cetera. And for your simpler clients, that might be all you need to do, right? Verifyle is very simple to use. You can also click on the plus symbol here. You can see that there is an option for you to bulk import contacts using the CSV file format. CSV is the file format used by software companies to export and import contact information. Okay, if you bulk import contacts, you'll immediately fill out your whole contacts list here, so you won't have to constantly be typing in first names, last names, and email addresses. And it's much faster and easier to build out workspaces as well. If you want to know how to bulk import contacts, if you go to youtube.com where all the videos are and you type in Verifyle contacts, you'll see a nice little video there that shows you exactly how to do that. Okay. The other thing I wanted to point out to all of you is that if you click your name at the top right and you go into account settings, you can change your name, you can change your email address, you can change your signature, you can swap out the NATP logo for any logo of your choosing. You can set up your public upload page, which is effectively a custom web page that carries your logo and a custom message from you that anybody can use to share information with you securely that ends up in your Verifyle system. It also gives you the ability to create what we call a handle. For example, I might create a handle for myself called Dana Tax Wizard or something like that, or Dana Taxes California. As long as nobody has taken that handle, right? I can create that handle, and that handle can be put on my business card or also at the bottom of my email signature when I'm using regular email for common stuff. And anybody at all can click on that to securely share information with me. Okay, that's part of Verifyle Gold. If you click on here, you'll see a video that shows you more about it. Likewise, requesting payments, you can invoice and receive payments using your Verifyle Gold system as well. If you click in here, you'll see details about that. Here I can see that I've used a tiny fraction of 1% of my CellUcrypt encrypted storage space. Here, I can see it set at the default setting of automatically send alerts. This makes it so that whenever I add information into Verifyle, the intended recipient or recipients will automatically receive email alerts about that information I put in Verifyle. Document activity alerts, I've left that at the default setting of on. This makes it so that I will receive an email alert whenever somebody I shared a document with looks at or downloads that information. Okay. If you're inside of Verifyle a lot and you're happy just working with the internal alert, you might choose to turn that off. That's up to you. And message edit, I've left message edit capability on, but you have the option to click here and turn that off, which would basically stop the message edit capability in the workspace threads in those workspaces for which you are the host. All right. So that makes it so that whatever you type in and whatever your client types in, it stays and it can't be modified. So some of you might want to turn that off. That's completely up to you. Blocking somebody is not a bad thing. Blocking somebody simply makes it so that when that person shares information with you, you don't receive the external email alert. However, you will see the internal alert in Verifyle. Okay, so it's not a bad thing. Language, right now we've got English, Spanish, and French. We will be adding more languages. Security settings, you can change your password here. Session management, I recommend you all go in here. If you click on session management, number one is that you can sign out of any sessions you've left open on any other devices or any other browsers. But in my opinion, most importantly, is that you can click here on this little slider to indicate to Verifyle the amount of time after which, if you have been inactive in your Verifyle system, Verifyle will automatically sign you out. Personally, I like to leave that at 1 or 2 hours. Two-factor authentication, as I mentioned, you can do that either via an authenticator that you download perhaps to your phone, which has a code that changes every 30 seconds, or you can simply receive it by getting an SMS code sent to your phone. That's an easier way to do it. Okay, all right, so those are some things in our account settings area that you can do. And I now want to move ahead here and talk about what we've gone through here. So Verifyle, it's extremely easy to use. Ask people who've already been using it, okay? We have a wealth of experience here at Verifyle that we draw from to make sure that it's a science, the way we've made Verifyle extremely easy to use. We have the patented security that I've talked about, unlimited electronic signatures compliant with the IRS, lots of ways for you to add value for your clients and also for you in terms of growing your business. You can get access to Verifyle Gold at the price of just $12 a month, close to a 60% discount off our regular $29 per month price. There's no long-term commitment. If you try Verifyle, you're going to love it. And to sign up, you can simply go to verifyle.com/NATP to sign up, okay? And here's what you get in a nutshell. All right. And as I mentioned before, at any time, feel free to reach out to us, email us at support@verifyle.com. Okay, now I did say to all of you that we would be getting to some questions here. Let me just go ahead and open up the questions area. All right, so in Verifyle, if you add information in Verifyle, you should assume that it stays in Verifyle. However, there are some caveats to that, in that in a workspace, for example, in the workspace called Client Christine Carson, which you saw me create here, I can click in here, and because I'm the host of this workspace, I alone, no guests can do this, but I do have the option to click on the gear symbol, and I can completely delete a workspace thread. I don't want to confuse you. Let's say estate planning workspace thread I want to delete, so I click on the gear symbol, and then I click on delete thread for the estate planning workspace thread, just like that. So I just deleted the estate planning workspace thread. Similarly, I can completely remove guests as I would like by simply clicking on the gear symbol and then clicking remove guest from workspace. I could do that here, right? Right. Remember, I already removed her from one of the workspace threads earlier. Okay. And yes, I can go ahead and I can delete an entire workspace if I would like. Only I can do this, okay? Because I'm the host of this workspace, right? Okay. So deleting a workspace is a two-step process, because it would be a big bummer to accidentally delete an entire workspace, right? So first of all, I can click Archive Workspace, and now you can see that the Client Christine Carson workspace has been removed from the active colored workspace area, but down here in the grayed out workspace area, I can see the workspace Client Christine Carson. If somebody were to add a message or a document here, it would automatically kick back up to the colored workspace area, okay? And here I have the option to manually move it back up to the active workspace area by unarchiving it. Or if in fact I actually want to delete this entire workspace permanently, I can do so. Watch this. I click delete workspace just like that. And the Client Christine Carson workspace now is completely gone. Okay, so that's an important thing to keep in mind. I'll answer one or two other questions. Okay, how many workspaces can you have? So you get up to 300 workspaces with Verifyle Gold, okay? And remember, you might not want to use workspaces for every single client of yours, but for those where you're doing very deep communication work, you're probably going to want to use that workspace. And how many clients? You get 2,500 contacts in Verifyle. So theoretically, you can have 2,500 contacts. And this is a good question. Someone's asking, what does the client do to set up their access to Verifyle? This is a super good question, okay? Here's what you don't want to do. Send an email to all your clients saying, go sign up for Verifyle. I'm going to use Verifyle to communicate with you. Okay, that's not good, because if they sign in for Verifyle and there's nothing in Verifyle, it's a really bad first experience with the Verifyle system when there's nothing there waiting for them. That's like getting invited to dinner and you show up and there's no food on the table. So the best way to introduce your clients, to bring them into Verifyle, is to first just send them an old-fashioned email, just giving them a heads up. Hey, client, just FYI, I am from this point forward going to be using the secure system Verifyle to communicate with you, in the interest of making sure that all of your information is extremely well protected and our communications are extremely well protected. So please have a heads up for any email alerts that you receive to bring you into Verifyle. Okay, so they're mentally queued up, right? Then go into Verifyle, add your client, and add information for each of your clients, even if it's just a hello, are you ready for the tax year to start? Something friendly, or maybe you want to put a newsletter in there, or maybe you want to ask them for something. Just put something into Verifyle, and that's automatically then going to send an email alert to each of those clients, inviting them into Verifyle, and then that client will come in for the first time, and they'll have a wonderful experience because there'll be a message from you, or a newsletter from you, or a request from you, or something to that effect. Okay, so that's how you want to bring people into Verifyle. They'll click on that link, it'll bring them into Verifyle, and they create a password. So then they have an account. So there's no laborious process to bring your client into Verifyle, and they have a nice experience right out of the gate. So that's the best way I can answer that question. And yes, clients are able to upload anything that they want into Verifyle for you to see and use, okay? And If you don't want your clients to be able to remove documents, then what you should do in Verifyle is make it so that workspaces are uneditable, right? Remember that option I showed you just a little while ago. And you can send codes to overseas phone numbers, yes. Okay, so I already went through how all of you can sign up if you're interested in using Verifyle. At this point, I want to thank all of you for participating in today's presentation. And thanks to NATP for being a great long-term partner of ours. And thank you very much, everybody, for participating in today's presentation. Bye.